Hi, this is Justin from Klaviactor Studios. So in this tutorial, I'm going to be talking about just the basics of getting started with a 3D piano roller in Blender. Yeah, so there will be a piano roller template file included in the .zip file on the website Klaviactor underscore Blender underscore importer underscore files. I'm just going to start by going through this little piano roller template. This template has a few different things that are important. And Okay, yeah, so this is what will show up when you first open it up, something like this. Yes, so you can see a pair of visualization hands, the keyboard, and then a video keyboard sync plane where you are going to be loading in a still shot of your piano playing footage without your hands in there. So it's like before your hands go into the footage, we're going to go and render off an image of that, plug it into here, and then line up the keys right here that just start by default looking like this to be how your keys look in your footage. And these keys are actually planes, but they were made as planes just because it takes away from the illusion that having a rectangle for a key can pose as for the complications that it poses with lining up to the keys on your video footage. So if after you line your keys up and you get your export out and that kind of stuff, for visualization purposes, you can always just select all of these like so. Go into edit mode. And then Control E. And there you go. Now you have a keyboard. All right. Let's get out of edit mode. Let's look this. Go back here. All right. Yeah. So, yeah, it's like the hand rig can be used for tracking your hands, that kinds of stuff. If you ever want to do anything like that from the Blender side of things, but of course the easiest way to do it is just to use the Nexus and mask out your hands with that. But sometimes there are things in Blender that you might want to have done through the Blender side of things, and that is probably, you'd probably go to this hand rig right here and use that to get what you need for visualization. Um, let's see. So, yeah. All right. So the keyboard is important for the size of the keys and its location, and that is what dictates where the notes spawn to fall down into their targets going along the X. And how wide these keys are dictates how wide the notes will be created in export. And so if you are scaling up, which can be understandable if you're using simulation nodes in Blender or anything like that. Simulation nodes prefer bigger objects and you'll have an easier time using them if you do, just scale this entire environment up, and then on your export, when you receive it, you go and you scale the scroll bounds objects to, suffice for the width scale that you would have made that would show up that, obviously needs a little bit of elongation in order to make it look more natural. But yeah, if you were working with simulation nodes, that would be somewhat advisable, but normally you can always get better stuff through more higher end compositing techniques. And so, um, yeah. And now first we're going to start off by mapping where our notes exactly need to start and where they need to end, just so we get all lined up with our animation based off of our MIDI track time. Let's just go here. Okay. Okay, so we'll use that for the start. So we took a plane out so we can get how it's measuring and the Z right here. And okay, yeah, and so this value is going to be important. So we're going to go into the studio and get ready to export now that we have our note start time mapped out, and then we'll map out the note end time as we get the start time put in. Okay, so let's go into the Klaviactor here.
Welcome, Klaviactor Studios. You currently have the response panel I can use to communicate with you set to offline. You can adjust this in the settings panel. Please let me know if you need any assistance.
Just turn the music down there a little bit. Okay. And this was from a previous recording that I did on OBS, and I found out that I didn't have settings on that was actually recording anything visual. It was just recording my voice. I'll just delete that. And so what we're going to go and do is we're going to go into a create a new project, and we'll just call this let's get our recording loaded up in here. Okay, click on that, click load project. Open up the settings here. This is where our settings, so this is where our start time is important. And just change this. Let me get Blender pulled up in here. Okay, so let's just copy this. If you copy and paste from Blender, remember to delete the M. Stands per meter. Okay, yeah, and now let's go back into Blender. Select our plane again. Back into here. Let's move it down just a sliver. So our final node is all the way out of the keys when it's done. Okay, and that gives us this number. Copy that, go back here, go here. Okay. Yeah, and so now you need to load in your Blender executable path. That will look in a path as such. Let's go here into program files. If you installed with an MSI installer, you'll find it in program files, Blender Foundation. I used Blender 4.4. Yeah, and it would just be right here in this path. If you used like some beta .zip version, you would just use the exe from the .zip. And yeah, so here we load in our piano roller template. That's this template right here. And then, yeah, that should be everything. Go with 24 frames per second for this one. And then when we're ready, we click Send to Blender. That pulls up this terminal. These are all the notes getting created live. And it takes a little bit. This isn't the biggest piece in the world, but for longer pieces, like there can be like over like 3,550 some notes. It'll take anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes to export a piece like that. And yeah, so but for a piece like this, I believe there was only like 595 notes, so it doesn't take very long to export. And then we'll just let that finish. Yeah, and I'll just let that finish and get you on the flip side. Okay, and yeah, so it's done exporting, and when it's done, it'll print out, scroll bounds and node Z range from 0 to 153. That's the height of scroll bounds, 24 frames per second. We got our start and our end Z values, and yep. So just press enter to exit out of that, and it will put this is Bach demo underscore project. Bach underscore demo underscore project, name of the project that we created, underscore project. And then it will give us, yes, the name Bach demo underscore piano roll dot blend. This is the exported payload that it gave us. And here you can see. And I could have gone a little bit lower, but yeah, you get the gist of things. That's how you decide exactly where it's going to start. And yeah, so let's just go through the first few items on the agenda that we're going to need to go through. And yeah, just so you know, this is what you plug your video playing footage into that doesn't have your hands over it, so you can match the keys up into this. And of course, you do that before you export. A quick fix for that is just go into Blender, put your video footage in there, then go into here, the little plus tab at the top, go into video editing, then go into video editing, not rendering, but choose video editing, and then put your video into there. Go to like it's one of the very first frames that will show without your hands in there, and then just go into render image, and then save image as, and there you go. And then just take that image and plug it in. And so now we're going to open the project prep tools. We're going to go um, no color nodes by pitch. That's for the track time files. Yeah, so we're just going to go and basically unwrap them. It'll give them all UV texture maps for debugging, that kinds of stuff. And we're going to finalize their note markers. You can see. And on bigger track time sizes, bigger projects essentially, this will take longer than it would for a project like this where there's only like 595 notes. But again, for something that's like 3,554 or something like that, it will take quite a bit longer. And sometimes, you might want to actually track time before you run stuff like this. But you don't have to. It still gets done, and then when it's done, it's done. You don't have to do it every time you go into a track time file. There will be updates in the future where, uh, since like sheet music tools are being introduced, where measures are now going to be coming into play, and just quick divide tools for uh, based on measures. So it's like you just divide a file based off of each measure, each two measures, each three measures, each four measures, etc. And with that, it would make it easier to go through and just run all of that within how the files get divided, because it will become a part of the process that divides the files. For bigger files, it saves time to do that individually. But let's see. It's just about done. All right, yep. So it just finished. All right, and now we're going to go and run finalize note markers. And currently, all these little target empties that represent where the notes are supposed to be when they enter the key. Um, they start out as children of the notes, and this just changes it and gets it fixed up so that they're actually children of scroll bounds, and that's what drives the notes down. And yeah, we'll wait for that to finish. And while we are doing as such, um, we're gonna go and get ready to just divide a track time demonstration up. So it's like each time you divide up a track time file in the mother file, it will group the notes that you divided into a new file, and it will place a color on them. So it's like instead of like this gray, it will be orange in such a case, since orange is the color that's selected. And I'll just show you an example of that right here while that's going. This is what the mother file looks like from the demo project that I did. Yeah. And that little red right there is actually not how it was. That entire section was orange, but I just did, like I said, a tutorial that ended up having like an hour of recording all this information, where I was just feeling a lot more energetic that it didn't get recorded, and so that's why that little red is right there. But anyways, I was using that as a demonstration in that's such a case, but I'm just going to use this file that we have going right now. And okay, yeah, so that should be done. It is. And yeah, let's get dividing. So I'm just going to switch over to the exported file immediately. I'm going to switch a low number just because I'm going to run through the scheduler tools, and I don't want a huge number of notes in there for that, just because I want to get through things. All right, and so boom, boom, and click export range to new file. That should close this file, and it will bring up, yep, the new file that we have. Yep, we saw it turned orange, and then it left us to the new file. And you can see that gets saved. So this is like it gets saved into a track time underscore blend files. And yeah, so those are all the track time files from my project, from the demo. And yeah, and so this is the file that we just created, we're currently in right now. All right. Okay. Oh, right, yes. There is one thing that I did actually forget to do. Well, let's go back into the mother scene. So, yeah, how scroll bounds works. So let's go into the animation tools. Let's open those up. Okay. And let's go into the keyframe adjustment tools. Okay, so wherever this number is where scroll bounds is going to start. Initially, it's going to start at 0, but so if you decide you want to change where scroll bounds is actually starting, and you've done a lot in your project, but you changed when you wanted the notes to queue and that kind of thing. This will shift all keyframes from scroll bounds globally on your computer over to start at this point. And so you don't have to go through each file and do it. So I have it set at 1319. And so to make this work, and so we're just going to start right above the camera right here. So it's got a formal piano roller entrance or audio visualization, however you prefer to look at it. And we're going to go and do this. Yeah, that's a little too slow. I'm really zoomed out of the timeline here. I think that's still way too slow. But yeah, just so you know, the point is that's not where you put the first keyframe. Otherwise, it's going to mess up with how it syncs in with your hands or your piano playing footage. Okay, okay, okay. Yeah. So now back to this file, and so let's see. Let's disable the keyboard. Let's disable the video sync plane. Let's disable the hand placement visualizers. And let's go through some of these tools. Right. And by default, when you first register this, I'm sorry, I videoed this previously, and I am just not quite as into this version of it because I just have so much to get through, and I'm so bummed. But so I forgot to go. If you're very new to Blender and you don't know how to load in the Klaviactor Tools plugin, just go into Edit, Preferences, and then you're going to go into the Add-ons tab, and then you're going to click this little drop down, Install from Disk. So it's like I had it on the desktop, Klaviactor Tools.zip, and just install that zip, and then restart Blender, and you'll see it, except all of these will be disabled. These are the registration tools, so it's like you don't have to have everything registered that's not needed to be registered, just to keep Blender on a lighter load. Excuse me. And yeah, so let's get these in here. Okay. Okay, yeah. So I went through all these tools a little bit in the track times, but yeah. So it's like if you want your your audio recording playing when the timeline starts playing. Let's see, did I keep that? I've been cleaning up my desktop today. Yeah, I did. Okay, yeah, and let's just start it at the same time. That scroll bounce hits the keys, and yeah, so you'll see that that would start playing. Oh, yeah, I forgot. Sorry, you have to hit place update before it starts playing. I haven't done this in a little bit. Oh wait, no, because it hits the keys. Oh no, I'm sorry. It hits the keys at 13, 15, 7, so that's when we do it. The first keyframe is actually. So, there we go. Yeah, so every time you change this right here, remember to press the place update operator. And all right. Let's see. Yeah, so yep, that's in case you ever want to shift the keyframes from any other object, which includes so it's like a rig, and that rig has mesh with shape keys and material keyframes and geometry node keyframes and stuff like that. Just click include children. It will shift all that animation data equally over to wherever you choose this frame to be. It will just start all the animation from from the very first keyframe that's on anything within that scope of objects at that point. You load the target or shift. That's the parent of everything. I'll disable this. That's the parent of everything with the little drop picker right there. And then you run the shift keys now. And let's see. Yeah, onion skinning tools. That's pretty basic. You just click a rig, apply onion skinning. If you want each onion skin made to last 10 frames, have this 10. If you want it to produce an onion skin every 3 frames, that would be this value right here. And yeah, so I went through most of these tools really in the track time tutorial, and I'll just leave that for there just for the sake of getting on. But yeah, so it is very important to get hooked up into the morph node system if you're doing a more ambitious piano roller, and just have it so that each note's um, top level morph notes collection is what's meeting into the streamer because you can easily move sub collections over to instance collections and that kinds of stuff. And Because the render tools have organizational tools that allow you to keep track of the status of what's been logged into the streamer, so it's just not a huge headache to go through and make sure that everything has been put into the render streaming tools properly. So one of the first things we do is get logged into the morph node system, and we're going to do that with the scheduler. And so if you do watch the track time tutorial or have already, you would notice that I actually didn't have this available while I was working on the demo, and I had some time to kill with my one of my computers completely booked with compiling and building and stuff like that, and so I figured, this way, having this tool set would be like the icing on the cake for the theme of batching and having the computer do everything. So it's like not only do you not have to go through and spend all that time and energy making sure that you don't like miss anything, but you also don't miss anything at that, and just leaves you feeling very secure. And yeah, so it's nice to have this edition where it's like, the notes or anything are all rigged. Users can plug in their own character generator systems that are based off of shape keys by using the custom mode over here. Um, yeah, in order to do that, they would load in the custom rig.blend. They'd load in the collection name. Verbatim, maybe it's really best just to copy and paste to and from one file. Um, and yeah, rig object name, base mesh name, so that resizing tools can get a hold of the base mesh in order to measure how big the note should be in order to work with the note that it's representing. And yeah, so those are all important. Randomize the shape keys, and you can add the shape keys in with the little plus and minus signs right here. And you can range them, so it's like this is like alien sprite or something like that. But at one, it's just a little too sharp and stuff like that, but it mixes in well. Yes, at lower values, yeah, you can just say, you don't want it to ever randomly range beyond zero point 0.5, and you can do that for all of them. But I'm going to do an example with the Klaviactor character rig system, which has already got shape keys set up and everything ready to go. So first thing, you'll spawn the shape key values. Let's see. So I don't want to use the chest value, so I'll just uncheck that. I'm going to range creature sprite to zero point 0.5. Girl's face, it gets a little too skinny all the way at 1, so I'm going to range it to zero point 0.5. Yeah, this value chance all 0 is the chance that all of the keyframe or the shape key values will be at the value of 0, so we get the original base mesh, excuse me, in there. And so I'll just increase that to 2. And yeah, so this is an important part. It's like, what pose would you like them measured in? They're going to most likely be in when they enter into the keys. And so this works with the pose library and the animation tools. We're going to go in here. We're going to click refresh because I already have some poses built in there. And so I'm going to choose this Rigify Dive 1, and that's the pose they're all going to be measured in. And so that's checked. The fixed care rig offsets operator is for afterwards, and that's for if um, they are not perfectly aligned into the target shells from the pose that they're in, and you can just have their mesh uh, measured to have the rig move up and fit perfectly into the target shells that get created through the morph node system. So every time uh, 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 um, an FX panel operation runs, a morph operation runs, we'll just call it that, a target shell goes back into the node's place so that a user always has another tool available to represent what that node should look like. And it's just a wireframe version of that node that's not you can't see it in the renders or anything like that, but it's just for reference. So that's what that is for. And then we have the node options, and that's like whether or not the user would also like to include the node mesh with nothing happen to it. It's just the same as it was before. It's not rigged or anything like that. Or we would like to have the node rigged because we're going to be deforming it, or just to purge the node mesh completely and do nothing with it. And also, and so we're going to be doing rigged in this example, but by default, the notes, if you're deforming them, don't come with any cuts in the center. They're rather low in poly, just enough for, literally what is a vertical rectangle that's beveled. And so, so we're going to, programmatically run what would be essentially the same as doing something like this. And we're going to do that by add loop cuts. We'll just say put it up at 10. And remember, this is important if you want them to deform with rigs, so you should do that. And this is another important part. Since I'm running OBS, I actually can't run on a step delay that's 0.15. And this entire process works on a model schedule process. And so it's like it has a list of tasks to go through for each individual node. And this is the time that it designates that it has to run this task. And this is where your CPU comes into play. If you don't have a very fast CPU, or you have other things that are hogging the CPU, like I have OBS Studio running right now, and that's a real hog for CPUs. It's better to increase this to zero point 0.4. Otherwise, it's going to most likely leave notes in the center because it didn't have enough time to rig them and wait for the note rigging operator to finish so it could put it back into place. And so, yeah, that is an important one. If you're really in a hurry and you think you can get away with it, 0.15 might be for you if you have nice specs and nothing else going on. But for the sake of this tutorial, I'm going to leave it at zero point 0.4. And before we get started, we're going to go up to here. We're going to say build note list, and that builds the K. We can watch here live as things go. And that just builds a list of every note that's inside note generation here, where all the notes are first exported into. And with that said, let's run this schedule. And so you can see it going right here. It tells you each phase that it's in. Here we can see in wireframe. Watch it do the cuts. Okay, yep, now it's done. But as you can see in the current pose that I put everything in, this is what I was talking about. Yeah, they go below their target shells, and you'll be able to see. Oops, let me get a little bit note rig here. Yeah, so those are their target shells that you can see right there. And yeah, so in order to get the characters to fit perfectly into their target shells that they've been sized to match the exact size of in the current pose that they're in, we are just going to run this fix care rig offsets. And there we go. Now they're perfectly into place. And just to show. See? And that's perfect for the animation tools because it's designating that as like if you're going to be passing on animation procedurally, that's the final endpoint that it's supposed to be. And of course, if you wanted to have these characters pointing the other way, you would just have the pose, recorded, to have the character pointing down, and it would just align the character perfectly into that, which would be more convenient, I suppose, if the characters are diving into keys. But just for demonstration purposes, that's what I'm going to leave it at. And with that said, I will leave it on this, and I will see you in the next. All right. Oh, wait, yeah, and just one more thing. Yeah, since we just generated new objects for the project, or for the notes, we can now go into the project prep tools and we can recolor everything. Oops. And there we go. Yep, now all the character meshes are matching perfectly to the notes. All right, yeah, and so that's it for this one. I'll see you in the next. Thanks. Bye.